Ladies and gentlemonkeys, it's rare that I can't yap up a relatively wacky intro for a video, but for this one, I just don't really know what to say. For the past not even year of my life, I've joined various different cults, religions, groups, whatever you want to call them. I don't know the exact number, I have them written down somewhere. I'd say it was about 12, 13, maybe more or less. Of course, Scientology, Jehovah's Witnesses. I've joined breakaway Christian groups and gatherings, breakaway Muslim groups and gatherings that very well do qualify to this part. A plethora of satanic groups, both theistic and non-theistic, basically meaning that their view on Satan is different, whether it's a whole or just as a symbol. Luciferian paganism to anything, even like the Children of the Waiting Star, while that lasted at least. I was low-key spam crawling my friend the other day, and by spam crawling I mean twice for like 4 rings each, because anything after that feels fucking embarrassing. It's pathetic. I told her to pick up the phone because I was having a midlife crisis, and she tells me, Amir, you're not having a midlife crisis, you're not 40 years old. I'm like sitting there all confused and being boozled and shit, because like, yes I am, I'm like stuck, I'm debating something really heavy, like help a motherfucker out or something. And that was a really waking moment in my life, because not only did I lose aura in front of shorty, but it also took me like 20 years to know what a midlife crisis actually meant. I was debating whether or not I should go to Houston. Yeah, Houston, fucking Texas. And I was debating on it for like a week and a half. Every day I'd wake up on a different side of the bed on whether I should go or not go. And if I was gonna go, I would have to go by Thursday morning, because believe it or not, I'm employed. But the problem was that it was already 12 a.m. on Wednesday, so the flight would be in a few hours. So I decided I was not finna go. So I went to bed, had my little princess slumber, and then all of a sudden, I wake up after like not even an hour. I don't think it was like one something. I had a random ass dream. Don't leave yet. I'm not saying I'm Martin Luther King or anything. I'm just saying like I low key I don't be having dreams very often. And I had a dream. I was just kicking it with a few boys, right? Few dudes. Who they were fucking beats me. All I know was it was nighttime. We was having a good time doing jack shit in the parking lot. That's all you need sometimes. And I only knew one of them, and it was some dude who slid up on my IG story a few days prior. Before I travel, I like to put it on my story, say who's in, blah blah, and then a few people will slide up. A few of them may want to kidnap me or execute me, whatever it is. I respect it fully. I'm down for the ride. And I did the same shit for Houston, and Houston was very weary. One gentleman did slide up, no profile picture, no nothing. He could have been planning on fucking molesting me for all I knew, but he just randomly tells me, he's like, "Hey bro, I have a tow truck." No, honestly, again, I'm fucking down. A tow truck is a vibe. Like, how many times are you gonna meet a dude with a tow truck, right? But the problem was, I had Plan A in Houston, and if Plan A didn't go right, Plan B would just leave it up to me and bro with the tow truck. But even then, it's like, would you really want to travel to a different state just to come back and say you were passenger princess and mater? And my game plan in life usually is fuck it, we ball. You know what? Fuck it. I booked the ticket at like 1:30. My flight was in a few hours. Women's rights. And sure enough, long story short, I had one of the best times of my life. And this is a lot coming from me, because in case you couldn't tell by my channel, I'm like Mr. Side Quest. Plan A worked out. I also linked with Mr. Tow Truck. He was flipping awesome. Shout out to you, Brusky. And on top of that, I opened my DMs late one night, and I see a bunch of dudes telling me, a few of us Albanians gather over at blah blah if you want to pull up at this time. I said, fuck it, I'm gonna go. Why not? Even if I die, it's for a good cause, I think. And sure enough, that same night, I pull up, and what are we doing? Yeah, the exact same shit in my dream. Hey, so baby, we on the fucking Houston. Just me, bunch of random dope dudes, and I even end up calling that one dude with the tow truck. Ends up knowing one of the guys that I was kicking it with. Small ass world. What can I say? That whole dream was like recreated, and I know it's like corny and quirky that I'm like putting that in the video, but this kind of ties into what my topic is right now. In case you couldn't tell by now, I'm not your average peasant. I'm just one step above all the other peasants. I've been in so many situations, side quests in my life this past year, especially. Every time I'm posting clips from a new one, whether it's TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, OnlyFans, motherfuckers is a little confused. Understandably so. Throughout the past year of my life, I've joined countless cults, religions, groups, whatever you want to call them, basically shit that mainstream media would not really touch. I use the term join loosely, because by join, I mean anything from showing up consistently with them for a few days to actually becoming a part of it. The goal with each and every one of these was to simply just be a sponge, absorb. And there's a common misconception where some of these are said to need exposing and such. And although I never genuinely believed in what was being offered and taught to me, I made sure to stay as much with an open ear as possible because that's really how you get into the depths of not only calls, but honestly anything in life. How often are we as people able to do anything without maintaining some sort of bias from others? And don't get me wrong, I'm aware that bias is inevitable for every individual, though I wholeheartedly mean it when I say that a lot of our conflict in the world and our inability to accept our surroundings, peers, environment, etc., comes from a giant lack of communication. If there's anything I've learned from starting YouTube, it's how quick people are to point fingers in just about every aspect imaginable. For example, I would call Scientology the biggest cult in the world in some clips, and then that would spark a lot of debate. Some people would agree with that. Others would be so quick as to mention Jehovah's Witnesses, Islam, Mormons, Christianity, right wing, left wing. Basically, any label out there is up for debate. And I thought the best way to challenge myself growing up was to stay well grounded. And that can mean a lot of things for many of us. I'm sure we all know people who punch walls when they're mad, and also know people who write down exactly how their days will go from start to finish in advance. But the whole awareness aspect of it all seems to be missing. I've come to realize that I'm a big believer in leaving this world the way you've entered it. But you often hear the term, I was born this or I was born that, and it's no judgment to anyone that stems that way at all. But I felt like I couldn't say I was something because I'm being taught it or because my parents are, if that makes sense. I was never one to just eat what was being served in front of me. I was a fat ass, for God's sake. Like I'll eat what's on your plate too. Nah, but the main idea of it all is that I felt like I was robbing myself by just claiming something I haven't experienced or don't wholeheartedly believe. Religion wasn't something pushed like crazy in my family, but it was definitely encouraged. When I was in middle school, I was one of the few kids that would be pulled out of the class for advanced reading. You thought I was gonna say some special ed shit. Nah, you evil as fuck. But we'd be pulled out and given different texts for that whole advanced reading label. And one day my teacher gave us some scripture from the Bible. I wasn't Christian, so I was confused. Like I was infuriated. So I went to class the next day not having read the material intentionally. And the next day, of course, I was asked why I'm not filling out the reflection, and I just flat out told her, no, I'm not reading the Bible. I'm not your religion. Obviously, looking back, it was probably the most ignorant thing I could have said. Though at the time, it's what made sense to me. I was the only non-Christian in most of my classes and in that group in particular. And so at that time I felt like it was some sort of forced immersion, and though I had it all wrong, I the teacher was really chill about it. She just flat out told me like, okay, if you didn't feel comfortable reading it, you could have just told me and I could have assigned you different material. And I'm gonna keep it a bug with y'all. That day, I felt like I was hard as fuck. I went home clenching my fists. I thought I was on some real groundbreaking Rosa Parks, fuck the system type shit. Only to go home and explain exactly what happened to my mother, thinking she was gonna be on my side. And I remember seeing her face as she ate dinner across from me and I explained this to her and she looked shattered. And that's where she explained to me how not only ignorant that was, but also how false it was as well. Because how are you going to claim you are or believe something without understanding that level headedness, that sense of groundedness, without knowing how to respectfully engage with other revelations? I can almost recall the conversation word for word, the way she said everything. She was obviously pissed off and had me apologize to the teacher the next day and offered to read it. And so I was all ears to everything. And since then, I was very curious as to honestly everything that's out there. And as much as I hated going to school, I still felt that pressure that I'm sure many people feel. Immigrant parents moving to the US for their children to have a better education and opportunity. I grew up thinking that I could maximize that by understanding and absorbing, again, being that sponge to what's around you. And I also wasn't allowed to use electronics or play video games unless it was school related until very last week of 8th grade. Saying all this shit out loud makes me feel like fucking Greg Heffley from Diary of a Wimpy Kid, but that's just how it was for me. So point is, I was really interested in honestly shit that was somewhat good for you, you know? And clearly that shit ain't help because I'm still brain rotted as fuck. But now adulting has made me realize that holy shit, every day really is the same. I'm in college, so I'm a full time student. I'm also a full time employee. I've had so many days where I would either have to pull an all nighter or just sleep 4 hours. Truth be told, I honestly just felt like every day was a cycle. And before I wanted to jump off the fucking Eiffel Tower, I thought, you know what, might as well just spice shit up a little bit. So I grabbed some salt and pepper and I showed up to a satanic call.
Flee, flee, flee. Turn, turn, turn.
Yeah, yeah, quite literally, that's what I did. And this brings us into the topic of why am I about oh my god, that reading shit did not help when I was younger. Never mind, I still stutter like a bitch. But yeah, I found myself shortly joining hella cults, rituals, congregation, prayers, etc. And truth be told, Scientology was not the start of it, even though it had a heavy influence. I haven't said this many times, I've only said it in publicly in one interview, but I did have a friend who died and was in Scientology, God rest his soul. It's an awfully long story that I can't go into, but it did again leave this question in my mind. Honestly, a set of fucking endless questions in my mind. Not only just what goes on in Scientology, but even then, I feel like every time you experience anything death related, maybe it's just me personally, but I start to go down this rabbit hole of where can this person be now? What's it like? And I don't know. I always said this thing, not everybody in the world is the same religion. Obviously, most people are different religions. So at the end of the day, doesn't that mean that most of us are going to hell or not making it to whatever basically the reward is for believing the right religion? I remember being a child and just going into deep theoretic conversations with my friends at the lunch table about what if we're all wrong and then the only right religion is some random fucking tribe in like India or some shit? Anywho, I've joined various different cults and religions. Since then, a lot of them have required traveling, and some were just even online. Some were depths that I thought I would never honestly go to, and others were honestly some of the nicest people I've ever met. I'll always recommend getting knowledge on probably anything you desire as a person, but as cordy as it sounds, I don't recommend doing what I've been doing. At the end of the day, these cults are cults for a reason. They get people for a reason. And just because I did not exactly flow with them and remain with them doesn't mean you won't. In fact, it's very likely that eventually many of us will. In other words, there's nothing stopping any of us from being fresh meat. And that goes for me as well. I'm fully aware of it. I've left some of these groups in peaceful terms, whereas others, not so much. Kind of left a bad taste in their mouth. And again, I'm also aware that my experience does not account for everybody's experience. I can leave thinking positively about a group that treated someone else like shit and vice versa. So, recordings and public disclosure of what I'm able to post and say are very limited. If I received a penny for every comment I got about how I should infiltrate the Freemasons, I would have enough to buy my 450-pound Albanian torta shorty. And when reading those comments, a part of me gets that sense of an unfilled void again, where it's like, I did it. I can't really post it. Not even because it's like bad shit that I found necessarily, but it's a fine line between going at a public place and posting the people and interactions you've recorded there versus being somewhere that's flat out stated if you take out your phone, you have to exit. And so finding these groups in some instances was very difficult, whereas others it just came right to me. Like again, Freemasons, for example. I thought I would struggle finding how to get into a Freemason gathering until a young lady hit my way with the elites, and it was definitely like some shit I've never seen before. I'm at a point right now where everything I post and publish is made to the best of my ability, especially with like that whole aesthetic of the camera glasses and just the way I do my shit. I'm hoping that maybe it feels like you're there with us. I can't post footage from every group that I've been in so far, at least. I don't even have footage from every group. But just know that many of these things aren't publicly disclosed online for a reason. As much as I do want to be the whole little rugrat that changes that narrative, I can't. Like, I'm just not able to. And I'm certain that if you were in the same position, you'd be doing the same. I've had moments where we, quote, bring the devil into the room. Moments where I'm saying shit that I don't even know, but I kind of have to because it's either that or face the consequences of being an intruder. And so that's where I just wanted to put this little rant out there. And I do hope that you consider what as a person keeps you well grounded. Bam, bam, hashtag inspiration.
I would like to emphasize 1 Corinthians 19. But I will come to you shortly if Jehovah wills. True faith is shown through actions and strength, not just words of arrogance or
Not just words of arrogance or any boastful talk.